Everyone, welcome to Kailul Kol Shira in partnership with Breslov.org, and let us learn something on the Parsha. Oh, wonderful! Thank you. Okay, and let us learn a beautiful idea on the Parsha. We have this week is Parsha's Mitzora. We're talking about the Mitzora, the person that had the infliction, and the prescription, what he had to do, how he had to be put away, he had to go outside, he had to be excommunicated, he had to be in bidud. Right, he had to be in excommunication, right? And we learned a lot about that also. Why did it have to be always? He was there for a week because it would be a Shabbos. He would pass through a Shabbos, and on the Shabbos, if he would make the tshuva, and he would remember that he had to think of things of tshuva, and to return back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to realize what he did wrong. He spoke ill about other people, and he did other things. So of course, then that would help him. And if it didn't work, so the Chaim would come back again, and he had to stay a second week. He would have to stay another Shabbos, and then Baruch Hashem, he would normally get healed by then. He got the message after staying for 2 weeks. Anyway, so let's see now. So it says like this: Zais Tia Tyrus HaMetzora. This is the teaching. This is the situation that the Mitzora can have his rectification. So look what this is what Nassan says here. All right. Tikkun HaMetzora. Shua Bal Lashon Hara. We know that the Mitzora came because the guy was speaking Lashon Hara, right? He was speaking bad about other people, right? Lashon Hara, Rechilas, right? Umachloikis, he had also disagreements. Now, normally when a person has disagreements, that's what leads to the Lashon Hara, right? You have a disagreement with somebody, and then you have to tell someone else about your disagreement and what this guy did to me. And that's where it comes. So if a person is always easy to forgive, a person is always easy to be mevater, right? In other words, he's all right, whatever happened, we forget about it. Because again, why? Because the person understands that anything that happened to him happened because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it. It's really HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We can't say that, this guy said this to me, I'm angry at him, and therefore I'm going to talk against it. It's silly, because really the whole point is really HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all Hakol Me'ez Hashem. It's all about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Exactly. Wonderful. So here we go. Now, so the person makes, also Mariva makes a fight. It makes a fight ben Adam l'chaveri ben ishli ishtay. Right, between people, it could be between a business partner, it could be a customer and a thing. It could be just two friends, two chavrusas. It could be a wife and a husband and wife, whatever it is. It was just to be mevater, to let things go, and to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. Why should I be upset at him? Why do I need to say anything against him? And so on. So he says like this: Tikunai v'ishtadel likarev nafsheis l'Hashem yisbarach. So in other words, what should he do now? He should try to bring people back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bring people back. What was he doing before? Before he was separating. He was disparaging people. He was disparaging, and by causing the disparagement, what he was doing was he was separating people. But now, the tikkun is, if he can now bring people closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to recognize, why did this happen to me? Why did this? Because I got angry at people. Because I had a kas. Then because I had a kas, I had machlokes. And because I had machlokes, I was speaking Lashon Hara. And to teach people that, look what happened to me. So rather now he could tell it over to people, and everyone knew, right? Because they had to shave off all of his hair, everything of his whole body, his eyebrows, everything, had no hair. So everyone knew something was. They knew it. Said he could have the opportunity to bring people closer to Hashem. And that can brings up the covet of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because when you bring Jews closer to Hashem, that's bringing the covet of Hashem. right? More Jews say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. If they go to they go to shul, right? They say Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah, right? They'll say Baruch Hu Es Hashem HaMevayrach. So more Jews that are doing that, you're helping to bring up the covenant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mizilusa Tigalusa V'Oila L'Sharsa. You're taking the mazel that was in Golus and you're bringing it up to the Shirish, which is the covenant of Hashem. In other words, every time what a Jew does, Chas v'Shalom, he doesn't have Aveira, what's he doing? He's taking from the covenant of Hashem, because everything in the world is Hashem. It's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in everything. Is in all things, whether it's holiness or not holiness, whatever the case is, it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu there. So if a person engages in something he's not supposed to, what's he actually doing? He's actually taking from the covenant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when he does tshuva, as Rabbi Nachman says in Lesson Dalet in Likutei Moharan, when he does tshuva and he goes and he says vidui in front of the tzaddik, when a person can do that, and the person can go to the tzaddikim and he can be connected to the tzaddik. Why am I saying the tzaddik? Because he had to have the kohen. He needed the kohen. The kohen had to be the one that freed him from his tzaras. It was only the kohen that told him. It couldn't be anybody else. And we know the Kohanim were the teachers of Torah. So when a person, he would tell over his mistake that he made, that would bring back the covenant that was from the other side, and would bring it back to the side of Kedusha. Rabbi Nachman also says in Lesson 4, when a person does an Aveira, it's etched on his bones. It's etched on the person's bones, the Aveiras. Hashem Yishmerenu, mamash. But when a person does tshuva and he does vidui, especially if he can do vidui in front of the tzaddik, if he can go to a Talmud Chacham and he can do vidui in front of the Talmud Chacham, he says, I did this and this wrong, and the person has the courage to do that, then that can help to free the person and cleanse the bones. Again, I'm mentioning this over here because of the Mitzora. All right, so look what happens over here now. Ad shayadeze nimshach shalom bichlal ubefrat v'nistakein hamachloikes, until the person can make shalom bichlal and befrat. He can make in general, with people in general, he makes a shalom with people. And befrat, he does it for himself. He fixes his own problem. V'ayadeze nitaya mitzayra. And that's how the Mitzora can have his pure, he can become pure mitumasei from his tumah. But he has to be very, very careful. He has to be very, very careful. The Rebbe is saying over here that he has to make sure that he's bringing people back. And he shouldn't try to take the covet for himself. It's all the covet is because it's the Rabbeinu Shalom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't like any time someone takes the covet, because it's all the covet in the world belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Kivayid Mekaymai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the covet belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And anytime someone tries to take covet away, honor, glory, and they try to take it for themselves, they're mamish robbing from the Rabbeinu Shalom. You see, so that's a very, very important thing. So he has to bring people back and teach people, but he has to realize, how did I get into this mess? I got into this mess because HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught me a lesson. Not that the person should feel so great, but really HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught me this lesson. And because HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught me this lesson, that's why I can help you people out. But it's really, you give all the covet to Hashem. Ki azai lo yuchal likarev and the nefesh is klal. Because then, if he's trying to do it because he's trying to honor himself and make himself great, he's not going to bring anybody close to Hashem. No one's going to come. Only if the person does things, and he does things in a way of doing it in a way of that he's not looking for covet, chas v'sholem. He's not running after that. But rather he does everything in a very, very humble way. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. ולא יקבל תיקוני בשלמת, רק יהיה כל כוונוסי רק בשביל כבוד Hashem יזברך. Everything he does, we're supposed to always do for the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all be me'es, the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So on this, I wanted to tell you a story, and then we'll go into the next thing. A wonderful story from the Baal Shem HaKadosh. The stories from the Baal Shem Tov are the best. And there's a beautiful ma'aseh that at one time the Baal Shem Tov was traveling, and he came to a certain town, and he heard that in this town there's a big matnas orch in this town. Someone that helps. You know, he brings people into his house, and he hosts them, and he treats them very, very well. And everyone, he anytime an ani would come to his house, he would take care of him. And the Baal Shem HaKadosh came there, and of course he was so happy that the tzaddik came to his house. And of course he invited him in, and he took care of him. He gave him the best of anything he had. And the Baal Shem stayed there for a couple of days, and then when he was about to leave, the Baal Shem asked this Yid. He said, "Is there anything that you need? Can I give you a bracha on something? Do you need anything at all?" So he says, "No." He says, "Baruch Hashem, everything is okay. I have everything I need. Everything's okay with my family. Everything's okay with my health. I have a nice parnasa, Baruch Hashem. My avodas Hashem is okay. I'm Baruch Hashem," he said. So the Baal Shem Tov said to him, "Would you do me a favor? Would you do me a favor?" So he said to the Rebbe, "Sure. Whatever the Rebbe would like, I would love to do for the Rebbe." So the Rebbe tells him, listen, he says, "You know, I'm going to give you a letter." So the Baal Shem Tov writes a letter, and he puts it in an envelope. And he tells this Yid, "Listen, do me a favor, bring this envelope to Brod, and then you have over there the Parnasei Ha'ir. You have these people that were elected to be the ones that would take care of the tzedakahs and take care of the aniyim of the town. And there's two of them, and bring this to them, and make sure they get this letter." So he said, "Sure, it would be an honor, Rebbe. Thank you." He thanked him very much for giving him the opportunity to be able to bring this letter. Oh, listen to this now. So he went to his barn, and he wanted to be malavet the tzaddik. It's a big schus. You escort the tzaddik. So the Baal Shem he had his carriage, so he wanted to get his horse and carriage, so he can escort the Baal Shem Tov out of town. And as he was preparing the thing, he dropped the letter. The letter fell out of his pocket. He didn't realize. He was so involved in what he was doing, he didn't realize. And what he did was, he got his horse, his wagon, and he went, and he was malava the Baal Shem. Everything was good. And what happened was, he forgot about this letter. He forgot about it. And a few years went by, and the Baal Shem Tov passed away. The Baal Shem Tov had passed away, and now he had a turn in his fortune. He had a turn in his fortune, and he lost everything. He lost everything. He mamish had nothing left. He didn't know what to do. But then he was looking around, and he had a barn. He had that barn, and he figured he'll sell it. He'll do something with it because, what is he supposed to do? He has no money. And he was cleaning it up, and he found this letter. He found the letter. And he said, "Oh my goodness, it must be because I didn't bring this letter. This is why I have this turn in my fortune." So he got himself together, and he ran quickly to the city of Brod. And he got there, and he was asking the people there, he says, "Please, do you know the Farnasei over here? Do you know who these two people?" And they looked at him, no, we don't know who these people are. We have no idea. We have no idea. So he went to the Zakanim of Brod. And he asked them, maybe they would know. They don't know. They didn't know. The next thing you know, when he's by the Zakanim, two people, they come running in, they said, wow, they just elected the new Parnasei Hayir right here to the city abroad. And he said, really? And what are their names? The two names that they gave were the names that were written on the envelope from the Baal Shem. That were written on the envelope from the Baal Shem HaKadosh. And they said, he said, okay, can I meet these people? They said, sure. They brought him to these two new guys. He gave the letter to these two new guys. And he said, here, this is a letter for you from the Baal Shem that I was supposed to bring to you, that I lost the letter and I only found it now. They said, wow. They opened up the letter and it said in the letter like this. He said, this is a letter that the Baal Shem HaKadosh wrote. And he said that this man is a very proper Yid. And he's a Yid that always does chesed with people, and he always does good things, but he had a turn in his fortune, and now he needs to be supported. But you should support him with the proper covet, because we know if the person was a wealthy person, so you're supposed to honor that person in that way if he loses his money, because that's the way the person is used to living. And then it said like this. And then the letter went on to say like this. And if you're going to think that this letter is not true, that I didn't write this, that Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem didn't write this letter, right now, you, the two of you are going to have babies. And one is going to have a boy and one is going to have a girl. And the next thing you know, they came walking in and they said, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. They were beside themselves. They couldn't believe this. The Baal Shem wrote a letter 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago, and he mamish predicted what it meant to care for somebody else. And it says like this, and then it was actually told over by the Apter Rav, the holy Apter Rav. And the Apter Rav said like this. This is what the Pshat means. This is what the Pshat means of V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. What does it mean V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha? Like yourself. The same way a person is always thinking. He's always thinking about how are things going to be with his family, how are things going to be with his parnasa, how are things going to be with his limud Torah, whatever he's thinking. So too, you're supposed to think of your friend and all of the different things of your friend as well. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov taught us, demonstrated us. Because the Baal Shem looked ahead, and the Baal Shem Tov saw that this Yid was going to have trouble. And he took his time to write that letter. He went out of his way to write that letter. So what a beautiful thing that is that we see, that we're learning over here from the Mitzora. What did the Mitzora do? The Mitzora was making machloikis. The Mitzora was going and he was making arguments. He was fighting with people. It says we're supposed to make shalom bein adam lachaverei bein ish leishtay. But what was he doing? He was making a riva. He was making a fight between bein adam lachaverei bein ish leishtay. And then what happened was he came in contact with the Kohen, and the Kohen influenced him. The Kohen was able to influence when he saw the Riyas Pnei HaTzadik, when he saw the Kohen. It brought him to think, what am I doing? How far have I fallen? And when he realizes how far he's fallen, it helps him to bring tshuva. Because what he does is he actually does tshuva, and he tells over, he does videi advarim in front of the tzaddik, in front of the kohen or the tzaddik, And by doing that, it helps him to come back. And again, we learned that a person shouldn't do things for his own kavod, chas v'shalom, but rather it's all because of the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.